Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Whining On. My name's Matthew. Fabulous Andrew.
Andrew. There's a star. Who is he? Who is he?
I turn up you instead.
Faff after I've said your name, if I say it properly. Andre Vincent. Andre. I know. That's why I changed the name. That's why I changed the name to Arry Pavarotti when I worked the street, because Andre Vincent was just hard for people to get around, and it's just I think it was just too wimpy for the street to have a performer, a clown with the name Andre. It just never worked. So I became Arry Pavarotti, and since then I think people know me by so many different names: Vinny, Andre, Arry. It's sort of quite weird, really. So, but Arry Pavarotti was what I was on the street for
it's a great
quite a few years. It was it just came about. My nan was an opera singer, so I always sort of wanted to be. I was pushed. I was a big lad. I was a boy chorister. Part of the family wanted to push me into being an opera singer for me nan, but I'd already discovered.
Just before we go into your history and everything, can you just give people a brief description of what you did on the street? Just a very brief overview of it.
What I did on the street?
Yeah.
Well, I started first of all in a double act, which people might not remember, with another guy called Richard Gauntlet. We were known as the Fall Guys. And first of all, it was just your traditional unicycle juggle pass, 3-3-10. We both liked the street, but didn't want to do what everybody else was doing.
Yeah.
And we suddenly realised that I'm a big fella and he was quite skinny. We were both huge Laurel and Hardy fans, and we noticed how Charlie could sort of, get an audience very easily by walking around as Charlie Chaplin and then walk up with his bag, that we went, well, why don't we try it as Laurel and Hardy? And that's what we did. We did a sort of like Laurel and Hardy, the pair of us, with and start with commencing dancing, and then gathered an audience that way. Into what I started doing with him was audience participation and a lot more clowning. And then he went off, he got into more circusy stuff. He went off and did Barnum. And then I said, right, that's it. I like the street. It's better than being an actor, which is what I was before. And I then thought, well, I want to do more of this street, sort of like audience participation and playing with the audience.
Would you describe yourself as being a clown? Were you a clown?
Yeah, I guess so. Street clown. I think there's a difference between, behind you sausage clown. Your big shoe. I couldn't do anything like that. I liked the natural look of. Well, is he there? What is he? Is it a clown? He's got a suit on, but what's he doing? What's that about? He's just getting in the way. He's let the audience try and work it out first of all. I used to do. So I got into that in a.
So Andre, shall we? Thank you very much. I've shared everything done now. So just so everyone knows, at the beginning we have to share stuff out. That's why it might start a bit choppy and whatnot. But now let's get into the core of this. Why did you begin? Why go on the journey you went on?
Like I said, I was an actor. I was a kid actor. I showed off from the early age of 7. I was, it's all I wanted to do. My nan was an opera singer. Her father was an acrobat. He was in the variety field. She was singer. Skipped a generation. So I auditioned as a kid as a pickpocket for Oliver at one of the big local theatres, and I landed up playing the Artful Dodger at 7, and that was it. I was like, well, I want to be. I know what I want to be. I was already earning a wage, and so whenever any the Fairfields or the Bromley Theatre at the time, any of the South London theatres needed a messenger or a waif, a Winslow boy, anything. I was a midshipman. I was called upon.
And was the family very much involved in you getting that way? Was it kind of, did you go to? Did the family friends with thespians?
My dad was
kind of.
Well, my dad was always sort of like, oh, you wanted to be a pilot at one time. Why don't you become a pilot? He wasn't sure about it at all. I think mainly out of the safety of a dad thinking it's not much of a career. If you don't make it, in his mind you have to be huge to obviously make money in it. And so I think he was always trying to protect me in some way. But I knew it from such an early age that I wanted to be the opposite to everybody else in the room. And so it was there. It was the buzz, and so I started, like I say, at an early age. My mum always supported me; she was good. Other members of the family, because they felt it was partly appeasing my grandmother, and I also became a chorister. I suddenly realised I could sing, and there was this moment, and it was like this barrel-chested 13-year-old, and when my voice broke, it was like, oh, try making become an opera singer. But by then, I'd heard laughs. And knew I wanted that. I knew it was comedy or comedy acting. And then I did a show that needed circus skills, and I had to learn to unicycle and juggle. And I thought, oh, this is fun. So I started doing that.
And what sort of age were you then?
I was 16 and a half.
And what year was this? Just to put the pin in the calendar.
1980.
Okay.
So beginning 1980. I went to drama school, hated it, not getting on, and then one of the big theatre companies offered me a part in a show. It was Comedy of Errors, and the reason I got offered the part was I looked like it was one of the Dromios, one of the twins. I looked like the other actor, who was a little bit older than me, and they said, "Look, can you come and do this?" So I left drama school, and like I say, it was a circus skill. So I also had to learn to unicycle and juggle within 4 weeks as well.
And did they send you on intensive courses for that? Was that something they pushed?
They had a sort of like a circus master who was pushing everybody through it. And the unicycle, I was like, I just wouldn't get off it. It was like I was determined, And all it was just across the stage at one point. But I was like, no, I'm not. It's not just going to be a fumble. It's going to be, I wanted to rock on it, and I did really well within 4 weeks. They were like happy with me, so we kept it in, and I loved it. I was bugged by that more than anything else.
And how many hours a day are you doing in 4 weeks? Then is it like 9 to 5 every day?
Well, rehearsals are, yeah, but I just wouldn't get. I was just learning more. I just wanted to know this guy was, who came in. Terry was like, I wanted to learn everything from him, and he, I was just buzzed by it. So once that finished, I was picking up other stuff. I went off to Paris for a while to learn more, and then went to Fratellini's.
When you went to Paris, is that Fratellini's who you trained with in Paris?
Yeah. I did. Now that was an intense course. That was like one of their, they're sort of like summer 4-month courses.
And could you go into the experience of doing that and what it was like, the people, the way you felt?
It was such a new buzz. Like I say, I'd been acting since I was 7. We're now looking nearly 10 years of being an actor, and it seems so odd to have a young head on, but feeling that part of my career wasn't over, but was old hat. I suddenly opened a new door, and I was really interested in this, in physical, I think, more than anything. I was a big lad, and I realised I could fall over. I mean, fatty falls over is always, one of the first rules of comedy anyway. But I could fall over and not hurt myself and get a big laugh. And it was like, oh, this is so much more fun. This is so much more fun, and having also to learn lines and rehearse. I'm my own entity as a performer, and so I did a few circuses. I enjoyed that, but the street performing I'd seen in Paris, and when I came back to England, spoke to a friend, and that was it. Got myself said, right, let's put some props.
Just before we go on, Andre, I'm going to try and just get a bit more of this time training in Paris and then moving on to the circuses. Just a little bit more detail of what happened to you there, because I think that's really interesting build up to then going on to the street after.
Lost you.
Are you still here? Can you hear me?
I've lost
Can
you.
you hear me?
I can't hear you.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Oh,
no, not hear me at all.
What are you saying?
Can you see me?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you.
You
I'm
can see
seeing
me.
you. I'm feeling them. I'm
You
watching
can't
everything.
hear me.
Not a word.
Oh, wow. Amazing. So I'm going to log out.
No, nothing.
Nothing. Okay. I'm going to log out. Hopefully everyone else can hear me.
Volume full up. Can you hear me?
Seconds.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You can hear me.
I can hear you.
Can't hear you. You're going to have to write it down. Are you overheated again?
No. I'm not too temperate. I'm okay. So I'm going to log back out and I'm going to come back in.
I want to know if the world can hear you, because if I can't hear you, can the world hear you? Anybody who's actually watching on Facebook, can you hear him?
Andre.
Actually, maybe if I do that, maybe if I go to Facebook.
Maybe. Look at you multitasking. Can you hear me on Facebook? Can everyone else?
I can hear you now on Facebook.
Oh, how strange. Okay, so now you can hear me.
But you're so delayed.
So I'm going to log out of this. I'm going to log back in. You'll see me disappear for a second, everyone. I'll be back.
I can't hear a word.
I'll be back.
I can hear you. Oh, this is so confusing. I can't. Oh, you've gone. Now you've gone. Okay, everybody. For those that are watching, we've got four people. You're so delayed. Right. So you can now we've got that delay on. So host has joined the broadcast. Let's see if I can hear him.
Can you hear
No.
Can you hear me now?
Nope, still can't hear you.
Okay, Andre, you log out and log back in again.
Headphones out.
So log back out and log back in again.
No, nothing.
The wonders of
why have we lost? Why have we? Where have we lost? This is ridiculous. Why can I not hear you?
Andre, log out and log back in again. Okay.
Go
host chat.
To the left or to the right? Let's see if I can write.
So I'm going to put in the comments. No. I'm going to call Andre. Thank you, everyone, for watching through this. Let's see how this progresses. I'm going to call Andre, and I'm going to try and communicate to him to log out and log back in again.
It says good, strong.
The frustrating thing is we've been chatting. We've been chatting for 40 minutes before. Let me call Andre and see if we can get him back. So... Hello.
Hello, mate.
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right.
It's nice to see you. Nice to speak to you. So,
that's a way of doing it. I don't know why I've got my headphones still on.
Yeah, well, I as much as fun as this is, I don't think this is the way we should go through the entire interview. So the argument I would say is try logging out and try and log back in again.
All right.
Hopefully, it should sort that out.
All right, I shall do that. I'm off now.
Lovely. I'm off now. So I was chatting with Andre earlier because he was talking about being into football, and I was very, very surprised to hear that Wolverhampton Wanderers are now 6th in the table. My childhood team, who, as a child, I felt was kind of, the only reason people followed them and supported them was an internal need for Midlands people to express their depression through a group activity. And now 6th in the Premier League. So that was pretty amazing. Told him a story about me going back home. And when I went back home to bury my father, very sad moment, I realised that I say originally for our
I'm back.
You're back. Sorry, I'm going to stop telling stories. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely perfectly now.
Wonderful. So, you'd gone to study in France. And when you went to study in France, the thing I was just trying to get was a bit more of a detailed description of your experiences studying there and then going and working the circuses, because I'd like to know the things that built up to Covent as much as Covent, the experiences you had going towards that.
Okay, yeah. Like I say, it was a really fast, intense time. I never really took in that whole, the Paris vibe, because it was like, it was workshops. It was every day was in, you learn to tumble, you learn to fall over, you learn to catch, you learn all your basic red nose needs.
Did you go in there with an air of confidence? Because, as you said, you're kind of almost old hat. You're kind of an old pro by the time you've hit, 20.
Actually, no, not at all. Not at all, because the other people all were either of circus families or were acrobats as kids. They were tumblers, good jugglers. And so I was like jack of all, master of none. It's sort of like you could come in and it was, but why, okay, the balance needs a base. Well, I'll do it. I can hold everybody up. It was always that. Because, and it was the first time I'd ever felt like that I really was nervous of everybody around me. And that sort of feeling of failure was the strongest. I'd been so arrogant as a youngster, turning up at auditions. 10 years under my belt. Fuck me, I can walk this. I mean, it was the same with when I did the show that did the circus skills. I was so confident that I just sort of went, well, I can do them. I can learn that really easily. So I'll easily pick up the juggling, and I'll pick.
You were alien to failure.
Yeah, I really was, and it was very bizarre. And then, but then going there was a real sort of like kick in the teeth. It was the first time I was the bottom of the rung. Everybody had a really good skill. I had fuck all. There was nothing but only being funny. That was the thing. But then again, there was also the language barrier as well. And so, it forced me to be.
Did you learn French?
But, I tell you what, I genuinely thought at one point I could speak most European languages, and then realised all I could do was order food and drink in most foreign languages.
Yes.
Which was, I thought, well, that'll do, and say put money in my hat.
Well, that's the thing. Street performers appear like they speak 20 languages, and all they know how to say is "Hello, how are you? Stand here, please."
Yeah. Fais-moi le put. Bring the audience in French. You'd just be learning all those different.
Yeah, and so you spent time really, because I one of the things, I do a lot of verbal work, and I've not done any real silent work, being in England most of the time. And so you say that being in France forced you to really work on silent work.
Yeah, it did. It made me think of that, early clowning of what Alex Dandridge always called, when I used to wander around, he'd call it Charlie Trapes, which was just this, me being awkward and getting in the way and creating the moment, as Melvin would say. It would be that was the only thing I had of any use for the circus. When I did. So
how did you move? How did you move from training in the workshops to going to the circus? And what was the moment? What was the experience there? Did you go actively to do it? Were you picked up?
I had a few of those clown routines that were needed, that you had to have in your belt. I had a basketball hoop, and that I'd get members of the audience to throw balls and try and get it into the hoop. I had with a backboard on. I had that at one point. The unicycle. I was good with hats. I used to love hats and canes and stuff like that. But I always said, can I do something before the show starts, as people are entering? And the few sort of European circuses that I did were like, what? No, no one does that. And then they'd see me do it, and they'd be like, yeah, okay, you can do that. Yeah, get in the way. They liked it. And did
they come and pick you up from the school? So did people come to the school and watch in the school and say, yes, we want this person and this person and this person? Or did you apply and kind of go?
No, it applied, and that was like, oh, I have this, look, I've done some stuff with, Philip Billond was, Pierre Billond was one of the tutors. And it's sort of like, that was a tick. He was, Billond had worked so many years with Goulier, and so, he was, a big French clown. And so, if you'd been tutored by him at some point, it was a little bit of a stamp.
Toe in the door kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'd probably say, if anyone ever sort of made me, I went to a few Goulier, and I never really got on with it.
Did you cry?
I didn't cry. I was quite angry, and I got the whole Andre, you are not a bouffon, you are not a you are not a clown, you are nothing. And it was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, can I have another bottle of red wine. But Billon was great. He really made me. What he calls like the art of oops was like, oh, didn't mean to do that, and let's build on that. Oh, didn't mean to do that. He'd made me walk around Paris with a red nose on, and I just wasn't allowed to react to it. As people looked at me, I just, had to completely be neutral all the time. It was one of the best sort of work things I'd ever done. Was just being normal, just be neutral, but you've got a red nose.
Why do you think it was one of the best things you ever did?
Because everything I'd ever done was always sort of like, I'm here, jazz hands, show off, here comes Vinny, which is what I'm now. While that was, keep it small, don't react to it. And that was sort of like, the Charlie Trapes character was very much like that.
So do you believe it taught you subtlety?
Yeah, absolutely. It didn't make you go for those big, and I never did that on the street. I would never kind of go, big. It was always, come on then, let's just build this. Now we can do a bit of shouting. Now we'll get the audience in. It was a bit like that, and I preferred that. And when we used to, I know you spoke to Dandridge. I don't know if you ever spoke about the bowlers or the heffalumps, which was a sort of like a theatre thing.
You mentioned the heffalumps a few times, yeah.
Yeah. So when we did the heffalumps, and so we had heffalumps in the evening and us doing street stuff during the day, they'd want to do street shows, and I just want to put me props in a bag and just walk around, and end up getting knocked over by a car or the scrapes I got into, which was just fun, climbing up the side of a building. I'd found much more entertaining than actually ever doing a show.
Well, it's that thing of play, isn't it?
I never cared about that. Yeah.
And so what did you take from the circus experiences? As you're going through circuses, what was that like?
The traditional circuses that I did, I wasn't keen on, and they weren't really keen on me, because again, they kind of like, they needed someone who goes ta-da and there's the finish. I wanted the audience to sort of be going as I'd slowly walk out with a broken prop, or and just look at them and just I once Time Out said that I was the most endearing clown of all time, which is which is lovely. Which is what which I'd rather be, because if you're a big fella, but you can make everybody go, oh, that's sad, which is what I always wanted to do with the circus. And they when I did Circus Agora in Norway, they sort of like had seen me and knew what I did, and then they were like, but you mustn't do this, and it's going, but this is what I do.
Is it right? I'm going to sound a bit pretentious with this, okay? But is that the yearning of an artist? You had the thing you wanted to create, the moments you wanted to create. You weren't crafting something to function. You wanted to do something. You had a goal. I'm putting words in your mouth, but
No, of course you do. You have that goal of wanting to be different, of wanting to create something different, and to give the audience a new experience. And I didn't want to be. They had traditional clowns in the show, and I didn't want to be that. And never enjoyed Waka Waka behind you, and so when I appeared at the beginning of, like, when we were in Norway, and I'm up a mountain, and I'm going, are you the circus? And then I'd fall, just tumble all the way down, and people are like, what is this? What is that's, for me, was much more of an experience for them than anything else. So that's sort of like where my clown was.
Yeah. And so you moved out of the circus? I kind of get the feeling why, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why?
Because I enjoyed the street. I just enjoyed that moment of more of getting an audience, entertaining an audience and then taking the money out of them at the end from you entertaining
And did you do street while you were doing circus in Europe?
No, never. Again, it was. I mean, Paris was always the Pompidou was just the hardest place to try and get on.
Why? There's lots of people there.
Yeah, it was lots of people. You had the mad fire-eating gypsies that just would happily just throw your stuff away, or they would just walk into your pitch. Who was it? Pony was there. I don't know if he was a wonderful clown.
I've heard a lot about Pony. He's been one of the guys that's mentioned in most interviews.
Yeah, he was. He was a big influence. Watching him.
Why did he influence you?
Again, it was just his manner, his way with people. Again, I always thought at that time, you had to be big and you had to make, big interesting things, and he would just talk to a child and play with that child, and everybody would be like, what's he doing? Why is he doing that? And then you could just watch a little bit of magic happen. And that was great. And he also could just draw a perfect circle on the ground. Not watching it, he'd just be walking around, and you suddenly realise he'd drawn a perfect circle. And you go, how did he do that? And that for me was lovely. Just keeping it that small was.
And so when you were in the circus, did you spend time going out to the Pompidou, watching people, kind of taking the stuff in?
Very little. Maybe at weekends, occasionally going over there. But again, it was like that snobbery of the circus. Of we don't look at them. It is the new school. We're not interested. If you think about it, France, although has that beautiful history of traditional circus, but apart from like our chaos that really went, we are stepping away from the French. They've never had as many alternative new wave circuses as we did in the United Kingdom.
And our chaos, even, I think they found their home in Britain more than France, by the sounds of it.
But near enough, yeah. I think they were certainly more loved. And there are those wonderful big companies that do that, Dog Troop in Holland. But that traditional style is very, it comes from a family, it comes from a history, and they try and keep it like that all the time. So it was hard to make them embrace something new, but it was fun.
Yeah,
fun to do.
And so what was the experience of leaving? How did you leave the circus? What were the thoughts going through your mind when you thought this is enough for me?
Well, it was just it was. I never really left. I went back again I did one, I think 86, 89, 91. If the work was there. I did a few in North America.
So you didn't just chuck a jacket over your back and put on Gloria Gaynor or I Will Survive and walked out the door?
No, I think even if tomorrow, if I could get myself a nice little 11 minutes, and somebody said, do you want to go back in the ring? I would definitely consider it. If I was match fit. There was never. I think it's with everything. I mean, same with acting. I never really left it. I wouldn't say that's that part of my life over. I've always dabbled with everything that I've ever learned.
By the sounds of it, there was a transition. Am I wrong in that?
There was, yes. There was a moment where I sort of like really embraced street performing. I mean, I sort of went in there 82, still doing theatre shows. 83, still pantomime every year, 83, 84, 85. It wasn't probably till 1986 when I went to the World's Fair in Vancouver, the Expo 86, that I suddenly went, oh, hold on. I really like this.
Can you go into a bit more detail about that?
It was a very weird thing, sort of like the real cream went out to do the Vancouver one, and then I was quite low on the list. I mean, it was Dave Brown, Mike Mulcahy, Nickelodeon, John Lee, all the really top street performers at the time were going out there, and they were doing month on, month off, month on, month off. or
do you have a show
different.
at this point then?
Yes, yeah, I did. I did have the total down to, which would have been the breadsticks. I mean, I'd done trying all sorts of little things.
Can we
The
move back a tiny
Chinese.
bit then, just to you
Go
forming
on
your
then.
street show stuff? So how did you begin forming
Right.
your street show stuff?
Well, like I said, first of all, I did it with another guy who knew circus stuff. We unicycled, we juggled, and we kind of didn't do that very long. We were like, no, everybody's doing this. We want to come up with something else. Did the Laurel and Hardy.
Where were you doing this then? Was this in Covent Garden?
Covent Garden. And the sort of we also then we did a melodrama using members of the audience, and I kind of like that was it. I sort of felt I like playing with the audience. I like creating that world, and so that was always. So when I went solo, it was very much okay. How shall we? It was learning how to gather an audience, make them like you, and then again manipulate
what was the
them
first
into doing
experience
things.
so what was your first solo show like? Because you say you had to learn how to gather, which kind of makes me feel like you didn't gather to begin with.
No, there was it was moments when you were in the inside pitch. There would just be people sitting around, and you were you'd get your props out, and you're hoping you'd look up and everybody would be there, and you'd look up and you've actually lost people from the seats, and you'd be going, right, what do I do now? Okay. So it was learning all that process.
And were people supportive?
Make it. Yeah, I think so. I remember there was always people, always saying, well, what you got to do that, you got to do this. I think it was trying to remember, I remember the 84 Street Performers Festival, which Andy Sinclair won as Man Machine. That was still a double act. And then the year later was the 85, and I was just still learning my feet. And a guy came over called the Fireman, who used to work Central Park in New York. And he just within the 2 weeks that he was in Covent Garden, we just really got on, and he was a real sort of like, think about what you're doing. Don't just go out there and expect it to happen. Let it. You don't have to worry about that. And if it doesn't work, there's not a problem. You can just walk away. And and it was for him. He could then walk up another hour later and have another go. I used to explain to him, going, yeah, but if you're booked into a pitch, you can't walk away because you want to work it there to make
But was
make your money.
It sounds like he was trying to get you away from the fear of failure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Or embrace the failure. See what you can make from that. He was a real interesting person to watch. There were a couple of other shows at that time. Complicité did a few street shows, and they were, if you remember, if you look at the piazza, if you look over to as you look at the church to the right, there's a fire escape, and I can remember them. They used to start like one of them would be on the pitch, and one of them would be right up on the fire escape, and just shouting at the other person. And I thought, this is really interesting, because I never ever thought you could split focus an audience. You can't have them doing this, but they were great at that, and they just didn't care. They were really interesting. And then there was a little couple from Holland that came over, and this was their act. They had this little hut that they sat in with a train track that went out of the hut to another little shed, and you just saw them leaning up against the glass. And then what happened after 10 minutes, the barrier would come down and they were ringing, and you saw them panicking inside. And this little train, not more than like half a foot, would come out with a rabbit on and just go across the track and go into the other shed. And then they'd just sit there. And that was it. That was their show. And I realised, I thought, you don't have to do big circle shows. You don't have to be that, Yeah, big show happening now. Big show with me in it. Come and see the big show. Come and see the. You don't have to do that to make people be interested. So I think that was it. So that was the sort of like the early prodding of, okay, don't expect it. Don't go out there looking for it. Let it just happen. So that was it. And then I started doing things with breadsticks and getting members of the audience out, and immediately having competitions with members of the audience.
So you're looking for stuff to play now. You've got, okay, I don't have to be a hype show. I can play.
Yeah. And it was also, don't take risks. Take risks. I can remember I would excuse me, if there were, people in wheelchairs, it wasn't a question of, don't touch the wheelchair. It would be, right, I'd get 4 kids out, spread them out, standing in a line, and then I'd take the person in a wheelchair and slalom them around the kids, and then back again.
Which they love, I'm sure, because there's this thing of they don't want to be ignored, they want to be part of it.
Absolutely, embracing them and just having a laugh. And, and you would get people going, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. And you're going, well, why not? That person enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. We're creating fun, and that would be it. And it was always, I started having that third eye, always looking out, knowing that the cloud's about to go over the sun any minute, and go and lighting change, and then and everyone would go, how the fuck do you do that? That was all part of it. Yeah. Playing with the birds, playing with whatever happened.
And so when did you get the feeling of, I've got something here, this is something?
I honestly didn't. When I got asked to go to Canada, I was just beating through all the time. I was that other act. I was always there because I wasn't the big pulled square show. And I always thought, okay, I enjoy this. I enjoy this so much more than acting, which, had been my life so far. And then getting to Vancouver, and I think, in Canada, the accent, as soon as I spoke, that certainly was a moment of, it was easy.
And were you Arry Pavarotti then?
I was Arry Pavarotti, yeah. Yeah. Arry Pavarotti was that whole character had existed, and there was a costume, and that was part of it, was to reveal yourself and get up high and show over here now, show with come and see an Englishman make a complete dink of himself. I can remember always saying that, and in Canada it was like, oh yeah, we'll have to see this. And it was nice. It was nice. Suddenly, I was a player. I really felt suddenly it was like there was the moment of people, wanted to see the show, and it was very funny. I remember Mike Mulcairn just going, they've really taken to you, and it was great. It was great. Just with Alex used to find it funny. We'd go out. We'd go for a meal, and people would come up and go, "You're Arry Pavarotti," like that, and he just couldn't believe it. We'd just be laughing about it all the time. And true story, I wanted to go and see 42nd Street, and I got a ticket. One of the last tickets of this 42nd Street that was at the big theatre in town, and it was, how it worked was the circle came down, and then there was a little drop. And there was one row of seats for like important people, and I was with the VIP.
Wow!
And I felt so special, and I was suited and booted. I thought, I'll make the effort. And we were walking along, and I suddenly heard this woman go, "Oh, there's Arry Pavarotti. I must ask for his autograph." And I went, "Oh, for God's sake, all right." And I went to grab this woman's pencil, and she just went, I thought, what the fuck's going on? And then this like oldish black guy next to me sort of was looking at me and took the pencil, and I thought, what the fuck's going on? This is really weird. What's happening? I don't get this. And at the interval, I was introduced to Harry Belafonte, who was sitting next to me. And he got introduced to me as Andre. And I then explained to him, I said, "Oh, I'm really sorry about earlier." I said, "You see, on the street, I'm working at the expo. I'm known as Arry Pavarotti." And he said, "Well, I thought your name was Andre." And I said, "Well, yeah, but Arry Pavarotti's funny." And he said, "Well, what's funny about Arry?" And I was just digging myself into a deeper hole.
What are the odds, though? What are the bloody odds?
Couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. Yeah. So,
So did you feel in the Expo 88 then that you kind of thought, this is the point, I have something, people appreciate this, I've created a thing which has meaning in place?
Yes, yeah. I kind of, that what had gone from like the melodrama, there was now a bit of a choice. You could do a war film, or we could do a musical. I got heavily into improv. I started doing, the theatre sports there, and quite a few of the comedy nights, which was really improv.
So you settled in Canada. You stay there for a while?
Yeah, I sort of stayed in Vancouver for about 4 years. Based myself out of there. Yeah. Though,
I suppose if you've got that star thing, why not?
Well, it was easy. I just found that working in North America with the accent, it really worked. I came back to London at winter. Always did winter shows again, but then started looking for completely different things. Did Circus Senso one winter. I did 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in a swimming pool, which was really great fun.
Sounds it.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, I don't want to be Panto boy. I'm not going to come back and do Panto. I looked for different, projects.
Interesting things.
Yeah, exactly. That was me now. It was like, don't want to go down that real, lapdog of normality. And so, yeah, always found a different thing. And that's what also in North America was the festivals were really building up. The Buskers festivals, starting in Halifax. And then, so many vaudeville festivals as well.
And was this a growth you were part of, or had this been here since the beginning of time and you just plugged into it, or?
I think the street performers festivals and the fringes as well in Canada in the late 80s suddenly became quite big. Without a doubt, Buskers was a really, really good thing. I mean, that got so big so quick. And do you
have any idea why?
No, I think people just liked it. I think it was, it was the end of the 80s. There was no, theatre was quite boring at that time. And then suddenly, people could go out. People were seeing interesting things, in their parks, in like the squares that they were, that they're used to, that suddenly a festival would arrive. And certainly in Canada, it felt like a lot of the time with the fringes, the circus had arrived, and they were so supportive of it as well, which was great. In '89, I did, started in Nova Scotia and worked right across, doing every festival and every.
And were you crazy rock and roll kind of guy doing these festivals, like a tour on band, drinking every night, this kind of thing, or did you go with a packed lunch?
There was yeah. It took its toll in the end. I blew my pancreas up and lost a kidney to cancer. So you
did have some fun on the way then.
Oh yeah. I can certainly remember. I did the Winter Olympics in '88, and the Winter Festival in '89, and I can remember, skiing on that snow, and as much white went up my nose as went under my skis. So it was it was party time. We really were. We were the new rock and roll. It was strange. There were festivals everywhere, and you were getting calls all the time. Can you come down to Denver? Can you come and do this? And I got some of the weirdest job opportunities. I got asked, would I support? Two of the things I got offered was, could I open for the world's biggest cheese that was going on tour? that a huge...
The world's biggest cheese went on tour?
The world's biggest cheese went on tour, had its own tent.
What was the cheese? Was it cheddar?
I think it might have been American Jack or something, but it was absolutely huge. This massive. They sent me a picture of it, and would you be interested in being the barker of a tent for the world's biggest cheese? And it's like, no. And then the same company offered me, would I like to do the warm up for? I think it was Lenin's Body. Lenin's Body was touring America.
I can't believe you didn't take that. You must have took it, surely. Come on.
What are you going to get out of that?
Well, it's a good story, if anything else.
There was so many strange. I mean, it's like people going on about this Tiger King bloke on Netflix, and I watched the first one, and I kind of went, yeah, I've dealt with these people. I see nothing strange about this guy. You meet these people when you're doing the Renaissance festivals and all the things right across America, where somebody turns up and says, look, if I give you an extra $1,000, will you do a trick with a baby elephant? Because then I've got a reason to keep an elephant. And you're going, all right, yeah, okay, we'll work something out. And the next thing you know, you're trying to put a show together where you've got an elephant in it for 5 minutes. And there's be things like that. It was a cracking time, a weird time, but fun. Worked with so many different people from the street. Waldo and Woodhead. When you were talking to Aileen, you remember Wally putting his head in there?
Yeah. As I was shocked and pretty baffled at the moment.
Yeah, he for me is just one of the most beautiful jugglers we have on the planet. I hope he still juggles. I know he's down.
I'm sure he does. Well, I did a Google after that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he was, he's just elegant, and it was just fun to do. We would put some shows together, him, myself, and another guy called Rob Salafia, and then sometimes the Butterfly Man,
Robert Nelson.
A couple of times, in San Francisco, and it was great all that time. In fact, when the Buskers website that Robert Nelson started up with David Aiken, Checkerboard, it was a real shame that I did one of the first interviews with Robert, and they lost. It was meant to be like an hour, and he and I spoke, I think, for about 2.5 hours, and they lost it. The record just went, and I said, okay, I'll do it at another time, because it was right during I was back doing pantomime. I said, I can't do it at the moment. You kept me up all night. I've got a 10:30 show. Let's do it another time. And then Robert was dead within a couple of months. I was gutted that I never did it with him. But we had, it was just talking about that difference between the European. He loved European clowning, while I kind of loved the way North Americans just went, right, I'm going to do this for the summer, and then at the winter I'm going to go off to, say, Montreal Circus School, and I'm going to learn a brand new skill, and then next summer I'll come out and I'll come out with a brand new show.
Kind of like a stand-up does now, where you're developing a show every year for your DVD or whatever.
Yeah, for going up to Edinburgh, you're turning that hour around to so you still have the same audience, and they're doing exactly the same thing. They were like, well, I can't come back to this festival next year. I can't come. Dick's not going to book me for Summerfest if I'm still doing this. I better come up with a new act. And sure enough, that's what they did. And I really liked that sort of headspace of really people working at it. And, we never
did. The European guys didn't so much, no?
Oh, we were lazy as fuck, weren't we? Oh, my God.
That's the
thing. But that's what, when I was talking to Butterfly, he loved. He loved the fact that a European juggler wouldn't just pick up his juggling clubs and get into it like a North American performer. They would discover them and play with them and make them do all sorts of different things before suddenly, oh, look, this is what they do. He loved all that. And I said, yeah, I can see your point. I do as well. I enjoy, as I said, the art of oops, I think is a great way of expressing it, that discovery. But, I
think you've got the title for your book.
The art of oops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it very collaborative at that time then? So when you were saying you're moving around, you worked with Robert Nelson, you worked with Checkerboard Guy. Was there a feeling in the street performers circle that you just wanted to create interesting work? It wasn't like you're going to take my gigs.
No, not at all. I never felt that. Never ever felt that. The first Buskers Festival in '87, I got there and it was very much because there was suddenly this £10,000 prize money. There was quite a few people who were like heads down and we've got to do this and I've got to make sure everything's perfect and da-da-da-da. And I kind of went, I don't like this. I don't like being enforced that I've got to do my 40 minutes here and 40 minutes there and and I started doing a show with Tommy Kubernik, who's a great clown from Toronto. And we discovered in the mayor's gardens that there were plug sockets in the rose bushes. So we nicked from the hotel we were staying in, we nicked everybody's standard, they all had these standard lamps on their desks. And we nicked about 10 of them and we put them in the rose bushes. And we did this midnight show, he and I, and we did a different show every night. And it was suddenly like everybody was like, this is fun, I want to do this. I want to do this. And then suddenly people are coming up and going, can I come and do 10 minutes? Can I come and do 5 minutes? Can you slip me in? And it's great to hear that afterwards that became like the most important show during the festivals. That it was like, but who's going to be doing the mayor's show tonight? Who's going to be there? And they sort of like embrace that craziness of putting a ramshackle show together. The audiences love. They can see that. They can see that you're working on the hoof, that you're having that moment of sharing. It's what started happening in the Line Covent Garden as well when we started doing split pitches. We were all kind of going, well, there's so many crowds and, we can everybody could be working, blah, blah, blah. I can remember starting a show on a split pitch and then I'd be shouting at Feely, who's doing a show, and then suddenly, oh, come on. And we'd put everybody together. And again, we just turn in, the massive crowd on the cobbles. And the audience is sort of like, we just watched this happen. This is...
And so what happened is you'd merge the shows together?
Yeah. You just sort of like, you suddenly go, right, well, you do that bit and I'll do this. Can you do... Yeah. And you sort of like knew how you could work it through and you drop in and... I mean, that's how sort of like the Bowlers and the Heffalumps came about because there were so many of us that had all worked together and could fall into people's shows or, could do a bit so it was great. And the first sort of like, I'm sure you've heard of the Schelling, the Ural Festival.
No, I haven't, please.
No one's mentioned that.
No, not yet. Not yet.
That is, I'm really shocked. There is an island in North Holland, and they've been doing a festival called the Ural Festival, which is Friesland for everywhere. And it is like a 26 square mile, well, 26 long, and I think about 5 miles wide. And there are things happening everywhere. That's the idea of it. There's art, there's performances, there's music in every bar, there are theatre shows, they build theatres. It is the festival.
Is it a free-for-all or is it kind of curated?
It's sort of, yes, yeah, for the theatre stuff and for the music. There is a big street festivals and people do turn up. It's best to get invited because then you get paid as well as passing a hat. But people will turn up and everybody would be there. Django Edwards, Daniel Revai, all the European clowns that all the street performers that you knew at that time. It used to be the place. And I think I did it last time I did it. Alex and I and Peter Post did it. I want to say about 4 or 5 years ago. The boys said, "Should we do something?" Yeah, let's go and do something. And it seemed that there was the English had invaded the island at one point, and so we just did this thing where we were dressed in old sailors' uniforms of the time, just going around apologising to everybody for what had happened. And that was the thing, was was this festival where you could literally do anything anywhere. One year, myself, Alex, and Suki Webster did this lovely thing where we'd got 3 theatre chairs, and we would just put them up, and we were dressed up really beautifully, like really beautiful dinner suits, and she was in an evening gown, and we would just put the chairs in a field with cows, and we'd be sitting there just watching, reading a program, and then a cow would moo, and then we would clap and stand up and bravo, it's marvelous. I'd never seen a show like it. And people would just be cycling past going, the fuck is that? And that was part of the fun of it, was just this. And so we did a whole week of Heffalump shows in a tent, one of the big Spiegel tents. And we created a new 2.5-hour show every day for 7 days.
2.5 hours is a long time to fill in 6 months.
Yeah, so but it was that whole thing of, well, you've got that. Okay, if we build on this and build on that, and man, it became crazy. Like as soon as that tent opened, people were like bursting in to see this, and we got a nice tour out of it. But it was just, it was the fun and the frolics of that moment of, you knew that the audience were there to see something happen that night, and something always would. There'd be a moment, Alex had a bath one night during the show, just a bath. He found a bath, he put it out, got stark bollock naked, filled it with water, and climbed in and started cleaning himself. And this was part of the ridiculous fun of it. And we were getting festivals, and people were like, yeah, you do what you want to do. And it was great. It really was. It was just so anarchic.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. And what amazes me is I don't at least tend to see anybody as free as that, as kind of liberal in their ideas of presentation.
Again, because it's that confidence of, it doesn't matter. That kind of like, well, I've got this idea, and the problem nowadays is that people would go, oh, it's a bit risky, oh, I'm not sure about it, oh, I'm not. We did Stockton Festival, the big beautiful street performance festival at Stockton, and we were on one of the main stage, and the night before, I think it was Welfare State had recreated the sinking of the Titanic in the docks, and the whole town had come out and was standing on the docks watching this, and it was us the next night. And I was thinking, well, how the fuck do you follow that? And I said to the boys, right, I got this idea. Let's say we are going to reenact the night before show. And what I did was I bought a paddling pool, and I had a little boat in the middle of the paddling pool, and we brought the lights down, and it was just on there, the reenactment of the Titanic. And just as a sort of like put a little bit of music, I can't remember who it was, I came running out stark bollock naked and just belly flopped into this paddling pool, and this huge wave just took this boat straight out, and boof, and that was it. And it got a big laugh, and then the lights came up, and then the boys walked on, and then there was this moment of, I'm stuck here with my arse I'm laying flat down, my arse completely shut. How the fuck do I get off now? What do I do? And the audience were just suddenly aware that I hadn't thought that through. And it was like, all right, come on then, Chunky, let's see what you're going to do. And it really was that moment of, I can't really get up. And Feely was just, going, come on, let's see what you're going to do. How do you? And then Noel Britton just happened to have a topper, and I just took it off, and it was like, see in a minute. And that was it. It was let's take a risk. Let's do a risk.
Yeah, which I love that, because in street shows I've watched, my favourite street shows I watch now are ones where I've done this 15 years. I watch so many fucking shows that when I come to the point of watching a show and I go, what are they going to do? Something's happened. They've created a situation. They put themselves in a hole. How are they going to get out of it? It's the most exciting thing to watch.
Yeah. And you know what? An audience know that. They've come with you on the journey, and they're with you, and they so want to see it. It's beyond me that when somebody says, "Oh, I've got this unicycle, I need some help getting up on it," and the audience must just sit there and go, "Well, why have you got it? If you can't ride it, then why the fuck have you got it?" They're not fools. How many times can you pretend to, have help and be pushed onto a unicycle? I've lost you. Have you gone? You've frozen. Oh, there was a ting.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're not moving. Oh, there you are.
Oh, you're back. You're back. Am I back?
Hey,
how you doing? Nice
you're
to
back.
see you.
There we go. Yeah. And you. Been a long time.
It has. Fancy meeting you here.
Yeah, of all the places. This has got to be the worst episode of the Brady Bunch I've ever seen.
I know. We're missing 2 screens for a start. So the Heffalump sounds like it's this incredible, amazing experience going to these shows and playing, and it seems so exciting. Why would you ever stop that?
Why did we stop it? We all started. Well, I tell you, one of the reasons we stopped it was we were doing a show at in the Paradiso in Amsterdam. And we'd done the rehearsal, and there was this moment where I used to run up and try and jump up on stage and hit the stage, splat it, and then sort of like fall off and then do it again, and then try and like do a hand flip onto the stage. And we worked it in rehearsal, everything was fine. Went to do it on the night, and I was thinking, wow, this is great. I'm getting great height here. This is fantastic. Well, the height I'm getting on this. Went to do the last bit and thought, I can't do this. I'm so far out. Really ranked myself up, and I shattered my knee. I ripped all the tendons under my patella. The kneecap hit the side of the stage and shattered. So Alex pulled me up, and we turned to sort of like, I'm laying on the ground going, I think I broke my knee. Noel Britain's sort of like, because we've got props, with so many props. Within seconds, there's a chainsaw, there's a false leg, there's a peg leg, there's a crutch. But we lift my trouser leg up, and we see that my knee is everywhere. We're pretty, and Alex, who's not the greatest around anything like that, he's just like, he's laughing. The audience thinks, is this real? What's happening? Realise we can't take me off round the back because it's a spiral staircase down. We had to get the ambulance crew had to come and through the audience, which must have been 1,000 people standing in the Paradiso, huge, massive venue. Put me on a stretcher. Still work
are they still working at that point? You still trying to work
the boys?
Stopped?
I'm laying there, clearly now half in shock, half in pain, saying, well, I'm going to go to hospital in a minute. I better take... And I've got props all over my body. I'm bringing sausages out my pants.
Is the adrenaline still going? Are you still got the buffeting...
Do you know, the best thing is because it was part of the Terschelling Festival, and because it's such a big thing in Holland, it got filmed. It was filmed. And you always have, like, on the news at the end... Here's a funny story. There was a squirrel that was caught in a tree, but it climbed down backwards. One of those. For a whole week on Dutch news, it was like, before we go, let's see the funny Englishman break his knee again. And it became this sort of thing on the news of watching me in pain breaking my knee. And they just kept showing it all the time. And it was ridiculous. And it was. And so... I then was out of action for about 6 months.
Before we get to that, I want to hear the end of the story. So the ambulance people are working their way through the crowd. You're pulling sausages out of your pants.
Lay me on the stretcher. I have to go through the crowd. And of course, the crowd, they're trying to high-five me, thinking it's all part of it, or grabbing my knee. I'm like, no, it's not a joke. And nobody really is working. So end up in Dutch hospital, have to try and work it out. Laid off for 6 months while we build my knee again.
So you had to have surgery.
Surgery on my knee, which I can I'm touching my knee now as I talk about it, is completely sort of part of the reason I almost stopped doing any physical big stuff any after that, was because I've now got this bone spur at the side, and it's just a complete absolute shambles.
So you didn't become the $6 million clown.
That would have been nice. We can rebuild him.
Yes,
we have the technology to make the first red-nosed knee. So that was we were umming and ahhing about. We'd been offered Melbourne Comedy Festival at that time. Should we go out and do it? And that sort of 6 months then fucked everything up for the boys. Also, I'd started doing stand-up, and the stand-up circuit sort of really were great. They did a benefit for me at the Comedy Store. People were coming over with food parcels, and once I was up, it was like, well, I can't go off running around the world. I've got to give a bit of support to the comedy circuit for helping me out. And so I kind of that's what happened.
You moved on to the comedy circuit, so that sounds like a good time to say. Can you describe the beginning of your work in the comedy circuit? Your first time to go and do stand-up?
It was hard. I mean, I must admit, the transition was, I was still going on stage with hats and hat juggling while doing jokes, but still kind of like was throwing things and doing a lot of that stuff. I couldn't let it go for a while.
Did you have a feeling that you needed an agenda to be there?
No, there was always no. I've always felt that there's no agenda, that anyone can do it.
But by that I mean, and I say that because of personal experience. Terrified of the idea of going and just talking on stage. I like the idea that I can say, I'm here to do this, and that's why you're watching me, and then everything else can be around that. And when you said I was still bringing stuff on, that's kind of what I meant by that. Did you feel like you needed a purpose to be there, bar just being there?
You're right. At the beginning, yes, I was sort of saying, I'm bringing something different. I believe, that it's just become a little bit too chatty, and so here are some tricks while I do chatty. We can, and in those days you could. Occasionally did a few shows with Feely, and we do the Hackney Empire, and we did exactly that. It was, spinning a ball. How did the audience? We would stand there with clipboards, and we would do all different bits of variety, and how would they take to it? He and I ended up comparing the Tram Shed for a few years down in Woolwich.
What's the Tram Shed?
The Tram Shed was an old venue, an arts venue in Woolwich, and it was during the first. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to think of the first war in Iraq, the first Bush.
The first Iraq war.
Yeah, first Iraq war. That's exactly it. The first war in Iraq. The first Iraq war. That first skirmish.
You had all the ingredients.
I just couldn't put them in the right. And what happens is, when we're in conflict, apparently the curfew is lifted off the Woolwich barracks, so the boys are allowed to go into town. So they were coming down to the comedy venues, and the guy that was running it sort of went, "Look, they're a bit loud and they're a bit raucous. You and Feely have both done street performing. You're a bit different. Will you host the shows?" And we kind of went, "All right, yeah." And so we sort of, I think that was in 91, 92.
Gulf War. That's what you were looking for. The
first Gulf War. The Gulf War. Gulf War. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So we ended up we ended up comparing there. And it was exactly that. We came from a different sort of, world, that we were on stage going, "Are you off to the conflict next week?" "Yeah." "Well, I hope you die." And the other comics were like, "Fucking hell, you can't say that." And we realised that we came from that was humour that they were used to, that there was no, there wasn't a line. And for the first time, I'd started doing stand-up in North America. I got a contract with Disney for a little while, and I wasn't happy with it. And they had
Why?
It was, it was just a little bit regimed, a little bit, do it like this, do it like that.
I'll Disney.
Yeah, it was. It was, a few ideas were thrown about, and it was like, well, we can't do that. But I just wasn't getting on, and I started doing a bit of stand up, and they had this thing. They had a little tour, and they asked me to host a few shows, and I kind of went, yeah, I'll do that. And for me, it was. I always looked at stand up as it being a bit. It's a bit of a roughman's trade, that I'd come from, I wanted a costume. I wanted a reason, to look like I just wasn't passing. And I thought, I'll have a go at this. There was a reason you were there, and a few props. And so I was a bit anti it. I was a bit, snobby. But when I was in places like Louisiana and Alabama, and I'm doing stand-up, and I'm thinking, oh, fuck me, what is that? The guy that I was working with at the time was a guy called Al Katz. And he was the fattest man I'd ever seen in my life. He was humongous. He said he weighed something like 540 pounds, which I never ever worked out, but he was massive. And he had to sit when he was on stage, not because he was so fat, was because he could get to his sock easier where he had a gun. That was the sort of crowds that he was from New York, and he didn't really like the southern states. So I was like, what the fuck have I got into? But again, the accent, as soon as I walked out and was like, hello, everybody, good evening. They were like, well, I've never heard you, cute. It won. It won so well. And I thought, this is so easy. And I had my street jokes and my street stuff. But within 3 weeks, I was talking about, there was a big thing in the southern states when I was there, and they had these billboards everywhere. It was, on your first date, think of that date as with Jesus. And I was like, yeah, that's going to work, innit? Doorbell rings, your dad answers it, man standing there, long dress, long beard, 13 guys behind him. She might as well go out and get fucked by the football team. And it was, it was immediately, hello, this works. I'm enjoying this a lot. And there was, there was a couple of other street performers as well that I noticed were doing street performing. And I thought, okay,
doing stand-up.
Why not? Yeah, the street performers that were doing stand-up.
And so you kind of, did you develop it in America, or did you develop it in London, or were you kind of, was it this thing, or?
I was still going backwards and forwards, but now suddenly there was another string to my bow.
Are we in the 90s at this point?
We're 89. I finished 89 to 90. I think it must have been 1990 then that me and Felix start comparing the tram shed, and again it's like, oh, this is fun, and the pair of us start. He goes off and he starts doing more stand up. I go off and start doing more stand up. But then the summers comes when most of the comedy clubs are closing, but we're going off and doing street performing. And I think I might have even picked up another circus at that point. I went and did the Mary Flora in Columbus, which they ticked me down.
What's the Mary Flora?
It was Columbus in 92. It's 500 years since Columbus had discovered America. And so Columbus in Ohio decided to do a festival. It's by Barbara Bush. Barbara Bush is the big cheese behind it. Columbus must, commemorate this wonderful moment in Columbus. And I get put down for street performing, wandering, improvisation, stand up, warm up, everything that's possible to do on this site. They suddenly go, well, get Vinny to do it. He could, we can get him to do anything that's possible.
And did you appreciate that?
It was a bit hard. I mean, from the word go, I was getting into problems with security. They were really tight on this one. It was like the work, there was no fun in it whatsoever. But I did open for Bob Hope, which was nice.
Wow.
I got 2 nights doing that, which was a real experience. Though the man was.
Can you talk a bit about that experience?
Well, yeah, he was 92, and he's they said to him his memory. He said to me, his memory is not great, and I actually went in and said, I'm from Bromley. I was born in Penge, Bromley, where you were born in Bexley and in Eltham, not far from you." And he looked at me and he was going, "Eltham, Eltham. I was born there." And I kind of went, "Oh dear, this isn't good." And he actually had. Not only did he have the placards with every joke written across the front row, he had the words to his theme song, which after he'd been singing for over 60 years, which of course was "Thanks for the Memory." Which you just kind of go, well, he hasn't seen the irony there, has he?
No. Well, you also have to wonder about how complicit he is in this at this point.
Oh, he was, yeah, it really was. But he was still a great performer, 92, and he was still, bang, 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 knocking it out. So, that was a great experience. And to have that on my CV, to come back and start going, all right, if I'm going to do stand-up, and, properly in Britain now, to actually say, well, I've opened for Bob Hope, it's a nice thing to have. That's got to open a few doors. Yeah.
And so how was it coming back with your Bob Hope badge? You've kind of got up and said, look, I've done these things. How was that experience then?
It was good. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was exactly that. I was one of those lucky ones that didn't have to spend, months or years doing open spots and proving yourself. It was pretty much, oh, you should get him. Just book him. And so that was nice. Always coming in and people ringing me and going, oh, do you want to do 20 minutes here? Do you want to do 20 minutes? That was great. And
how was developing the work? Just the work itself. How was developing the work at that point?
Again, it was like the early 90s with the stand-up circuit was pretty easy. It wasn't. We'd just come out of the 80s where everything, had to be, you must be sexist, must be racist, must be, everything had that ism on it. And we were in that second wave of stand-up. The real first lot of alternative lot had gone. And this was like still the big, as much as I'd done, I'd done my street acts on the first circuit, without a doubt. I did stuff for Cast, I did the street show at Cricket Woods and the White Horse, all those old places in the early 80s. And of course, Covent Garden had Apples and Snakes, which was a wonderful poetry room, as well as, they'd always encourage us to come in and do our acts. And so there was a lot of that. There was always that happening. We were welcome, which I don't see anymore. There used to be that lovely thing of the Garden Club when Mark first took over, sort of like downstairs at the Africa Centre, yes, where it was like street performers and stand-ups, and
we had the storage there.
Exactly, yes.
Yes.
And so there was that real sort of like, you didn't know what you were going to get down there for the audience. Now, for him, and I must admit, I think Top Secret is one of the best rooms in the country. I think it's fantastic. But he knows what he's doing now. It's like boom, 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 conveyor belt, in, out, 2 acts, boom, 2 acts, boom, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful, but it doesn't have that,
Just getting back to
what
you,
it had.
Did you? I mean, it seems like, listen to you, that the move from doing streety stuff in stand-up to doing pure stand-up was a natural. It seems like you did it intuitively because it's what you were searching for, joy.
Yeah. There doesn't. I can't really remember that moment where I said, right, I'm not taking any of the props on. I'm not going to dress up. I'm just going to turn up. It just was a natural sort of thing. And like I said, so many people, knew of me from either street performing or festivals or, there was.
Did you give up the Arry name?
Did
you give up the Arry name when you went to stand-up?
Yeah, that slipped away, and Andre Vincent was then, it was easier to be that, because I think Arry Pavarotti is then, it is a stage name, and as much as Incognito or Matt Welcome or I'm glad it gets a laugh from outside the boat. It's only you could live under a playground. I never thought that, I think you've got to be as honest as you possibly can. And for me to be Arry Pavarotti wouldn't be, you're already walking in under false pretenses. So it went very quickly. And
did you see your work change then? Did you see? So you've gone back from America, you've come to England, and you set yourself to be a stand-up. Did your work change? Did you think I'm stand-up now? I'm going to write different stuff, and I want to talk about.
I honestly thought I would go back to North America. I honestly thought I would probably move to North America, live in Canada, do improv, all the festivals out there. It was when the knee, once the knee gone, and the way I saw everybody rally around and really help me. When it was wonderful. Bill Bailey would turn up with a big sort of like parcel of food, and Joe Brown would come over and cook, and you're like, on the other end of that, 6 months down the line, you sort of like want to give back to the comedy circuit, and it was like, okay, I'm going to stay around, and I want to say thank you in some ways, and do any benefit, anything that I can help, anything. That's how it felt.
Be a member of the community that had been so kind to you.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really, it was really good. And
so how did you?
Sorry, one of the people that was really, who was the host of the Comedy Store show, Bob Mills, became a really close mate, and we ended up doing a TV show together in '97. We had a Saturday night Channel 4 show, which was, again, that sort of like camaraderie was brought together. I have to say, I was really glad on the same night that they did a benefit for me at the Comedy Store. Feely was doing one for me in Amsterdam at the Comedy Theatre there, and they actually had a link up. They did a video link up, and they were talking to each other from one, and it was like I like the fact that I had, even though I wasn't there because I was stuck in bed, I couldn't get out, I couldn't go to it, either of them, but there was still a little bit of magic of anarchy and something different, even at the benefit, which I'm really happy about.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of tell a chronology of your story, you've gone back to London, you're developing your stand-up stuff. What's the experience of your life developing these things, and then eventually, in '97 starting telly stuff? What's the experience of that journey, as well as just being there?
I don't know. It's the old John Lennon thing. Life happens when you're busy making plans, isn't it? It's that you just go with it. You just move with it. My whole, if anything, I've lived by is bend like the willow, not strong like the oak, which I totally believe it's I've always done that as far as performing goes, and certainly on the street. Yeah, I don't think you should just go out there and go, this is my set and this is what I do. And I think I've done that in life. It's sort of like, okay, what happens next? Where are we going next? I honestly thought in all those years, I gave up. My last pantomime was 1985, and I couldn't see myself going back to it because it was, I felt it was a bit of an outdated form of entertainment. I started doing them again in 2009. I adore it. God, I adore it. The fact that, for 10 months of the year, I'm standing on stage, you're a cunt, you're a cunt, you're a cunt with glasses. And then suddenly I've got 2 months of the year where I'm entertaining everybody from the age of 3 to 83. It's such a lovely buzz. And such a buzz.
What's the experience of going from doing stand-up on the circuit to doing television, and how, if people are watching who are thinking about that stuff, or would really like to get an idea of the experience of doing that? What's that like?
I became quite a prolific writer. Became like the topical writer, a person to turn to for like crazy ideas and newsworthy ideas, and I suddenly, was making great money, like, proper
And
money.
was that through friends? Was that because people knew you as being a creative force, or did you apply for stuff? Did you
Well,
send scripts off?
no, again, it was exactly that. It was Millsy. Millsy got the. Well, I'd sort of done some stuff with him in bed with me dinner, and then he brought me in and said, "Look, I want you to come and write with me on the show." That's what it was called, and then it became this sort of like fly on the wall documentary of us putting together each week. So then I was like quite a big part in it. So it was like I was the head writer, warm up man, and then so I'd have to write a monologue for him every week, and then that sort of moved in from there. Was I did the 11 o'clock show, another big topical show, Danny Baker
And were
show.
people kind to you when you were on there? What was the experience of being a streety kind of clowny character going into a kind of a different environment, so to speak? Speaking from ignorance on
I
my part.
think, I think it was that. It was that. Look, you've got to get this kid on because, well, I wasn't a kid then anymore. I guess I was probably in my 30s. There's this person who thinks in a bit of a different way. He's not straightforward. Da 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 da. Bang. It's like he brings props, and if there was anything, it was. I can remember when there was the whole thing of Ian Wright, the footballer, had got into a row with Schmeichel, the goalkeeper, and that was like the big news story. And apparently he tried to stud him with his boot, and I got a boot from the props room, and I put a flick knife in the front of the boot, and I sort of like was showing, can we get away with this joke? And like people going, my God, yeah, let's do that. And that was my head. I was still looking at props, still looking at not being the gag man, but how do we make something bigger? How do we
Do you
make
think that's the experience of the street? In that you sit on the street and you look around and you think, what's happening here? How can I create something interesting from the chaos that's swirling around me? And then when you take it to writing, that kind of process is.
Well, it is, isn't it? We've got that big box of props behind us. We've got that. Oh, look, I've got this in here. I can use that. I've got the sword. I've got all the silly things. I've got the puppets. I've got the whatever we've got in that box. It's creating something new every time, and that certainly was what was happening. Within that. One of the yeah. The RDA was another one which was always about again being brought in and props, and the late edition that I did with Marcus Brewstock on Channel 4. Again, it was always me kind of going, well, what about if we did this? Making a big, and then saying, can we get huge two big tanks, and then we put boats on them, and then we show everybody what the Conservatives are bringing to the party and what Labour are bringing to the party. And we put them on the boats until the boats sink. And people are like, yeah, all right, let's try it.
And was there not other people around thinking these things? Like the guys who've gone to writing school or whatever, were their heads not in this place? It sounds a bit like they weren't.
No, I don't know. I've never thought about it till now. That I've never even thought of my process of I would go, I always thought that the dream for any TV producer would be to be the writer that thinks out of the box. That's what I always said, that they want you to think out of the box, but then they always present you, a sphere. They always go, there's the ball, think out the box. And you go, well, how? Where's the corners? What am I doing here? The biggest problem with comedy is usually producers who suddenly go, oh, we've got to go by these guidelines. We can't do that. We can't do this. But yeah, I'd never thought about that's what I've always brought to the party, was that thinking that little bit different. And I think it is from those years of bouncing about.
Yeah, I could believe. Do you think it's changed over the years? Do you see you've had to change your work over the years for the change of sentiment and change of opinion and everything else that goes with that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've always said there's got to be a time where I, shake off my anorak of immaturity and put on the cape of responsibility. But no, I haven't. I still find it fun to go, smell my poo. You know what I mean? It's sort of, I'm in my mid-50s now, and I know I'm a big fuck off kid. I really am. I've been in a relationship now for 20 years with a woman, thank God, who sort of like gone along with it. But there are points where she looks at me and she just goes, "If any more toys arrive, I swear to God, I'm going to build a fire." And I swear to God, she said that. And as she did, the doorbell rang, and the postman was standing there with a huge box of the Three Stooges bobbleheads. And she was just like, "Oh God, you're a child. You're a fucking child."
I have looked through your IDMB page and whatnot, and it does seem like you have a thing of, am I rude? It says like nerd culture, like you're a.
Yeah, there is that. Again, when you said that, I was like, "Am I a nerd? Am I?" And there are things that I'm really quite precious about. I got very angry in 2015 when there was a name. They went around all these comedians, your top 10 favorite comics, and I don't think anyone could get past 1984. And if there's one thing, again, the street, we would all sit around and we'd watch Buster Keaton, and there he is. When we'd watch, we loved Laurel and Hardy. God knows how many times, if they were being shown at a cinema, we would go and queue to watch beautiful old clowns. And for me, for the new people and all the new comics that are coming through, not to know comedy history, I do believe the old adage, to be the part of anything's future, you've got to know its history. You've got to know the past to know the future, to be part of the future. And so I have got very nerdy. I've created a website called Mislaid Comedy Heroes, which has, lots of comedians that have just slipped and gone past, and who I think are so important and we've just completely forgotten about.
We'll put in the comments at the end of the video, everybody, in case you want to visit that.
Okay, and there's a YouTube channel as well with lots of old variety shows and sitcoms and live performances, that comedy films that people have just forgotten about, and that to me is just wrong. It's just too much good stuff, and I find these stories, the art of war got changed because of comedy.
But the art of war is in Sing Tzu.
No, not the classic text. I'm talking about the actual rules of engagement in medieval history got changed because of comedy.
We've got to explain this more.
Okay. This is true. In 1066, William of Normandy comes to claim his throne from Harold. Harold has already promised him the throne, and as we know, there's the Battle of Hastings. And what happens is the English basically have the Normans on the run. And what happened was William's jester, what was his name? Talisay. He used to taunt the enemy, and he thought everybody knew that. William thought everybody knew that who Talisay was. He came out and he taunted the Saxons, and some Saxon ran forward and cut his head off, cut the jester's head off. And William of Normandy went fucking Garrity. So not only did he turn and bring in the whole of the army to go back up the hill, slaughter the English, he fired arrows into the royal enclosure. That's why Harold got an arrow in the eye, which was dead against all the chivalry rules of the time. Not only, people don't know that not only when he got hold of Harold, he cut him into pieces and spread his body all over the field. Harold's mother tried to beg for his body back. He killed his mother. I mean, he was so fucked off that his jester got killed, and that's why he becomes William the Conqueror. He was just William of Normandy. He completely lost it because a clown got killed. I think stories like that, for me, I just love them.
Everyone loves the fool.
I just love moments like, yeah. But the fact that the history got changed, he was ready to leave. He was ready to leave the battlefield and take the Normans back. But as soon as Talasay got killed, boom, he loses his shit big time.
The sacrifice of a fool changes human history, or changes British history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, interesting.
Absolutely.
Did you always have this? Is this always something that's fascinated you from growing?
I loved reading comedy biographies. Always had those. Certainly when I got out into North America, suddenly finding these sort of books and films and things like that, and finding them cheap was great. Like when I was in, the first time in '86 being in Vancouver, I read every W.C. Fields book and all the Marx Brothers books. I was really into all of them, and just that whole world of the variety circuit, and then reading about the Pantages theatres that they performed, and there was one in Vancouver, and I thought, well, I've got to go to that. And then part of the festivals over the years, playing, getting to not Halifax, Winnipeg. We're doing a show in the Pantages at Winnipeg, and and just these beautiful old places like that. And so there's a real part of me.
Do you think that contributed to the fact that you are, I don't think I would go out on a limb says, a successful artist? Was the fact that you kind of you swam in the knowledge and experiences of the people who've gone before you?
I suppose because I loved them and respected them and knew what the struggles and the things that they went through, that there was always that it's not important, it's I'm not McIntyre, but that doesn't matter. I thoroughly enjoy what I do, and I can look at other people's lives and go, look what they did. If Phyllis Diller didn't, I think she's one of the most important female comics of all time. She didn't start performing until she was like in her 40s. So you just kind of go, that that's amazing. It doesn't matter. Just enjoy your moment now.
Sorry, I saw
Melvin's just
glanced down. Yeah. So has there been any particular? I mean, we've chatted about a couple of different pieces you've done, and there was one we chatted earlier on about particularly big life experience. We're getting your specs on.
Just have a look and see what people have said. Oh, some lovely people there. Some lovely people from me past. I haven't seen some of these people in years. Look at that. Is Rex Boyd and Graham Scott, Dem Robinson, Stevie Rawlins. He's a lovely juggler, that Stevie Rawlins. I've seen him throw some stuff in the air. He's very good, There's good Charlie Lynham, there's a Melvin, and look at them all.
Cunts, every one of them.
So we chatted earlier on, and you were going to tell me a story, and we kind of aired away from it a little bit just to have the experience of hearing things for the first time. Particularly interesting, difficult life experience you've been through. Is there anything that stands out?
Well, as I said, the years of abuse. There was years of. There's a kangaroo behind you.
It's me, Poocher.
Oh, look at him!
Yeah. He's figured out that I can't be rude to him and tell him to F off the bed while I'm doing interviews. So he now slowly takes his only ever opportunity to come onto my bed during interviews now.
Excellent. Good on him. I'm glad he takes that opportunity. Years of abuse. Years and years of abuse. And one in particular at the Edinburgh Festival 2000. I went on a drinking binge. As you do, with a couple of Scotsmen. I thought I could drink these bastards under the table. They were on just beer and scotch. I decided to go for a vodka and Red Bull and cinnamon aftershock. And basically, in 46 hours, put so much sugar, I blew my pancreas up, and that was the start of the downfall. And then started, started pissing sugary wee for quite a while. That then really affected my kidney, and I got a tumour in my kidney, a 7-pound tumour in my kidney, cancer of the kidney.
Wow.
So
it's like a tennis ball kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. I haven't got a picture of it at the moment. So that suddenly I've discovered I had cancer, but I immediately wanted to talk about it. You suddenly have that something different to go on stage and go, right, well, I honestly, this is true, I honestly thought, I looked and went, well, Bill Hicks, Andy Kaufman, Graham Chapman, 3 of my favourite comics, they all died of cancer, they never talked about it, don't do it. That was my first thought, and that was on a Thursday night, Thursday day that I was told.
And why would you think, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to delve a bit deeper, why would you think, because they did, that you shouldn't?
Because I suddenly thought these are 3 really good voice boxes that I really like. Yeah, Graham Chapman did a lovely thing in the last week of his life. He told the Sun that he was cured, and they put, I don't know if you know this, they put a big Graham Chapman is cured of cancer. It's absolutely, and 2 days later he died. And made them look like absolute wankers. But
what a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Superb. Know that you're going to die and then tell them that he was cured.
That's it.
Just
this into the box.
Absolutely. Made them look like dickheads. Anyway, it was beating me up. Should I, shouldn't I? And I kind of went with, well, Bill, and Andy Kaufman and Chapman, they didn't, you shouldn't. And that night I was comparing Jongleurs in Southampton. And I got into a little bit heckling with some bloke, and then I suddenly went, oh, don't heckle me, mate. I've just discovered I've got cancer. No, I have. I've just discovered I've got cancer of the kidney. Yeah. I've got a tumour in my kidney. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome George Egg.
I bet he liked you that night.
Oh, I remember. He still brings it up. And George just looks at me. He was like walking past me going, oh, cheers for that. That was an introduction, wasn't it? And I thought, well, do I talk about it? And I changed my mind pretty much the next night. I kind of went, I want to talk about this. I really do. And at first,
did you find that night, were you sad and were you upset, and was it hard to be the funny guy because I might fucking die?
Not at all. It was like, it was the outlet. It was like, well, at least I've got this. At least I've got, whoa, there's the laughs, there's the laughter. The embrace and love of strangers is probably the main reason that most of us do it. And, that's exactly what I was there for at that time. So the next day, as soon as I sort of started, the next day I'd already sort of, because of reactions of telling people and people not being able to say the words, and suddenly I was allowed to say the words. That was the other thing, was I was thinking, well, I can't talk about it, is because these people haven't talked about it because they know what a sensitive subject it is. And I kind of went, well, no, it's mine. I can own it. I can own it. And then now I think, well, fuck it, everyone should talk about it. Everyone's going to be touched by it. Everybody should, everyone should do a joke about it. I immediately started, putting it in and started. And in fact, so the Friday night I did a whole bit about it. The next day I got a call from Jongleurs going, what are you doing? What you did stuff about cancer, and I'm not sure you should be doing that. And then as soon as I got that call, that was the moment that I went, fuck it. That's it. That's the nail then. That's me doing it. That's me talking about it. I didn't do it on the Saturday night for them because I thought, well, they're arseholes. They don't deserve it. And then really worked on it. And and I got told, when did I got told end of March, was operated on.
What year are we on?
This is 2002. Yeah, 2002. So so this is how it went. I got told March 2002. I have it end of March. I got operated on the beginning of May, and it also really grown as well by then. So they were a bit shocked how big it was. I then started writing the show almost the day after coming out of hospital. The whole experience. I got the anaesthetist to film the operation because I thought I've got to get that on camera. And at the end of May, I was like, I'm going to take this to Edinburgh.
And were you on chemo this time, or radiology?
I had one bit of radiology, and it was really weird because they weren't sure if it had gone into my urethra, and so they had to just give me a quick blast. And I turned up, and it was all like laughs, and all these new people were having it. Then went back to 2 weeks later to be told, no, you're fine. All the others were just bald, and I had, for some reason, had just become this hairy ball. I was just, my beard was out here. I didn't shave for the whole of the month, but I was, and they could, as I walked in to go, hello everyone, I could just see them looking at me going, no, we're not happy with you. Look at this. So that was a really weird experience to suddenly, the people that I was having a little laugh about having chemo, not having, that was not nice. And then I turned to a few producers and went, look, I really want to talk about this at Edinburgh now. Can you get me a room? And I had 3 of the big producers go, no, it's too soon. Don't really want to. No, not interested. Didn't want to touch it. And I had quite a few comedians going, I don't think you should be doing this.
Can I just delve a bit deeper and say, I mean, I have ideas in my head of why they were saying that, but I'd just like to think why you thought they were saying that.
Just because it's not a subject for comedy.
Why?
My dad was very much like, well, how can you go out and talk about it when, somebody's grandmother has probably died of it? And I went, because it's what I go through. It's what I see. It's all those experiences I want to share with people that, that I want to find out about. Glenn Single, she said, trying to find a cure for cancer here. All right, Glenn. Yeah, it changed my life a bit. All right. But then, so I did the show. I'll just do a bridge version for Glenn. Did the show in Edinburgh. And,
before you do the bridge version, fuck Glenn. I want the long version. Okay. So how'd you get the stage? Because people are saying no, and people are avoiding this they're avoiding it like cancer. So
because because I had to sell it. I had to go, look, this is my story. I found this really interesting, and the more people that say no, the more I want to get out there and do it. The more.
And who did you sell it to? Were you just telling it to everyone, or?
Pretty much so. And then Ed Smith at Carucci sort of went, yeah, let's do it. And he got me a room at the Gilded Balloon. Karen Corran's always been a good mate, and she was very, we'll put it in the snooker room, billiard room, which was quite weird because at that time the billiard room was sponsored by Silk Cut. So there I was going out doing this, and everywhere around me is all this cigarette stuff. And, there's brand continuity. yeah. So that was always a good one. But yeah, and it was incredible. It really.
What was it like when you? So did you work the show in?
It was I did a couple. This is the weirdest thing. Getting there was the hardest thing. I had 3 warm-ups worked out. I had 3 warm-ups worked out. The first one, I meant to do an hour show. I do 2.5 hours. Got to cut it down. I do the next one in Highgate, and it doesn't get one laugh. This whole audience just stare at me, going. And they walk on, and I go, brilliant stories, but it's not a comedy show. And I'm going, what the fuck? These I've broken this up and done it into 20-minute routines in different places, and it's got laughs. I know that all the tests have got laughs. I don't understand why these people. So that really freaked me out. And then I did one that was so at Hemel Hempstead. And then the first night in Edinburgh, it didn't kick in. The second night, there wasn't that many audience, so I cancelled it, trying to think how to make it better. The third night, it just flew. It just flew. And had 2 reviewers in, and it was just like, never seen a show you like it. This is the 5-star show. I got the front page of the Times, full interview, 5 stars in the Times saying, if this guy doesn't walk away with fizzy water at the end of the month, I'll give up being a journalist. I just got reviews from everywhere, like the Nurses Times, the New Statesman. It was like 29 5-star reviews. It was just incredible. They got a TV show out the back of it. It won awards.
Did you get the mineral at the end? Perrier.
The what?
Don't know. The mineral, the Perrier, the sparkling water.
I didn't even get the nomination, and everyone was like, "What the fuck?" And so that was great, because then I started saying,
"Can we just focus on it?" Oh, sorry, you carry on. Finish what you're saying.
No, it was just then after I did get the nomination, I was walking on stage, just going, this is a show about cancer. I got cancer. I've no idea how I got cancer. I have been hooked on this for years, and then got out a bottle of Perrier and started drinking.
When you were writing the routine that's about such a heavy subject that is going to have affected the majority of your audience, how did you go about writing that? How did you make it sensitive? How did you make it work?
By always keeping it in the here and now, keeping it my story, keeping it about, look at these ridiculous things I'm seeing. The fact that nobody can say to me, how's your cancer? How is it? It would always be, how's your health? How's your problem? How's your little issue? All these sort of things, that people, why can't you say the words to me? And then, then people giving, little tips about, oh, my uncle had that. Oh, how is he now? And then I see their face go, oh, he died, didn't he? He died, and you couldn't tell me. There'd be all those things like that. Somebody once said, oh, my dog had that. What am I meant to do with that? What am I meant to do with that? I mean, so you could talk about all those moments, and then you could talk about the discovery and the tests and all the things I had to go through, and then the bollocks on the other side, because not only do you get you have to go and see a sort of almost like a carer to make sure this person arrived and sort of sat at the end of my bed and went and actually said this line. They said, "Remember, Mr. Vincent, cancer's a word, not a sentence." And I just sort of like look and go, fuck. I looked at them and went, I think you'll find it's also a star sign and a tropic. And they were like, oh, he's a bit weird, isn't he?
I bet they felt proud when they said it, though.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, this is the sort of person that goes around and is. But I mean, then again, my doctor told me that when he tells, my urologist said to me, when he tells people that you have cancer, he said about 30% go, right, okay, let's deal with this. 30% fall apart and they're in tears and okay, let's deal with this. He said, but 40% he never sees again. Just disappear. Oh. And you just go, well, what do you mean they just disappear? And he's like, well, I don't know. He said, I never hear from them again. They either go off and get private or they just go off and die. He said, I just don't know what happens to them. So we write to them, we ring, you hear that and you go, fucking hell.
Is this kind of like a personalised version of the C word? People don't want to face it, and so it's easier to kind of...
Absolutely. And my dad's if you watch the TV show, it's on YouTube, if you watch it, I drag my dad into it because my dad was always that sort of like barometer that I used. And he was like, you can't do jokes about it. You can't. And he came with me when I got the results as well. Jackie was busy and I took my dad. And my dad was, because my dad lost his kidney with stones. And we've got a real problem with kidney stones in my family. And my dad was convinced I had kidney stones. So when I'm told I got cancer, my dad starts arguing with the doctor, going, no, don't be stupid, doctor. He's got stones. Of course he's got stones. He ain't got fucking cancer. What are you talking about? And so we reenact that in the TV show. And And
once again, links will be posted at the end of the video if you would like to watch.
and so it was, yeah. So he is the perfect thing, and he says, you know, before you did this, I couldn't say the word. He says, I can say the word cancer now, and I've got no problems with that. And just for that moment, for him to admit that in the show is like, it's been worth it. It's worth it for that.
You did what all great art's supposed to do, is affect and change people's lives. You helped with something which is an actual, genuine, pervasive problem.
And now the thing is, you create that, and now you're looking for something else. It's like,
so, well, what was the experience after doing that show? You said you got a TV show. Was the TV show with your father talking about the experiences and basically being more of a documentative experience there?
It's a comedy show. It's still a comedy show. It's totally. It's sort of like taking half the show and the experience with it, and how my.
And did you get some slick producer going, hey, I really liked your cancer. Well, we can make something of this. Was it that kind of thing?
It was. There was a few moments. It was through Baby Cow, Steve Coogan. I've known Coogan since he started, and so it was nice that Steve kind of went, yeah, let's do this. But there was a few moments, those TV moments that haunt me. That, you know, that if anything feels they have entitlement, it's people who have a camera with them. We're in the hospital. And we're filming down a corridor, and quite clearly a family have a moment. Somebody's just died in a family, and there's just shouts and tears. And the producer just lifts his headphones and looks to the runner and goes, can you ask them to be quiet because we're filming? And I'm like, oh my God, you've just got no sense of what is happening here. There have been moments like that through my career where you just kind of go, and it just gnaws away at you. That you just meet these people in TV. That you know, like I say, you present them with one thing and they go, oh yeah, but, and you're, for fuck's sake. And so yeah, and
so
go on.
Yeah, what was so. The experience in the documentary, I assume, even though you had kind of essentially sociopaths behind the cameras and behind the clipboards, was a positive one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did. Yeah, again, the show, the TV show, I won an American Independent Film Award with it, so that was nice.
Congratulations! That's amazing.
And a BAFTA, but not in comedy. In what was it? In Nature and Science, but. Hey, you take them, don't you? You roll with the punches. So, yeah.
So I assume by this point you've gone into remission.
Yeah. You're 5 years you're in remission, and I bring up 10 fingers. 5 years you're in remission, which again, remission. I've never liked that. It sounds like your cancer's gone. Is it a disco? Is it all right if I go? I can back again. I can because it's readmission, isn't it? I can come. It's a horrible word you have to live with. It's always there, hanging over you. But yeah. And again, you know, you read so many people who I'm a cancer sufferer, and you're reading it and going, you haven't had it for 21 years. How can you be a cancer sufferer? You had it 21 years ago. Get off your fucking high horse and come and join the rest of us.
Everyone needs an identity, don't they?
Yeah. There was only I read a lot of cancer diaries online, and there was only the show's called Hurrah for Cancer, and it came from this one woman who was like, 11 years ago I had a brain tumor, and I was told I had 6 months to live. 11 years ago. Since then, I've swum naked with dolphins. I've hang glided. This woman's like hurrah, and she really was. She really embraced it. She was like, I'm not going to let this isn't my moment to die. This is my moment to live.
She had that moment of right now. I can soak life up.
Yeah, exactly. And she was the only person who kind of went, oh, okay. And I talk about that in the program. But
and so, what was life like after that then?
I became the cancer comic. It was, if you're doing a benefit and it's cancer, you better get Vinny. You better get Vinny to. Look, here's Peter Post, bless her. You better get Vinny. Vinny's had cancer. He'll do 10 minutes of it. And then the last thing people really want at a cancer benefit is somebody then walking on and doing 10 minutes about it, because they've all been touched by it in a real, and it's sort of like a bit me kind of going, yeah, here's a thing. It was hard, always hard. And
but isn't this thing, and I ask this now, because you talk about the fact that you're helping people, and it seems like very much you felt happy at the fact that you help people say the C word, talk about cancer, to bring it out in dialogue. Do you think that wasn't necessary in those environments?
Well, it's a different thing if they booked a ticket to come and see me do a show about cancer. It's also if they booked a show to see comedy, and suddenly I bring up cancer and go, I've just had cancer, and then I talk about it, and I bring them in on the journey. If you are a benefit, you're giving money for a comedy show, and the money goes towards cancer, chances are you're there because it has touched you in a way. And then they expect me to come out and go, so here's my story with it, and it's funny. You'll see people go, I'm not going to laugh at the subject. I will laugh at any subject that's making money to go into it. I can't see myself laughing at the subject. And it was really hard. It was hard to shake off. And, but by about the fifth or sixth one, I kind of went, I've got to stop this. The worst one, I don't know if it's online. The weirdest one I did was there was a big thing called the Big C, which was a weekend of cancer on, I think it was BBC4. And they had a huge show at the Alexandra Palace. And I was the only one who sort of like, they wanted me to come on and do 10 minutes of jokes about cancer. And I was stuck on between Goldie Looking Chain and Razorlight. Was it Razorlight? Was that old band? And it was the weirdest gig. There should have been a part of me that just goes, no, I can't do it for love or money. But your ego's going, 8,000 people on telly, me doing stuff that nobody's heard before. Fucking right. There's a mosh pit. There's a mosh pit of kids, and I come out and go, so what happened was I started pissing blood. And you just watch these little kids just staring at me like a budgerigard, looking at its own reflection, just make the fat, scary man go away. And it was...
Well, performing in between music is pretty shitty at the best of the times,
Yeah, it is. You've got people that are dancing, and then
everybody, let me ruin your party.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the weirdest gig. I've no idea if it's online. I should check. I've never seen it, because it was one of those ones where you just went, why the fuck did I do that? But I came off, and it was like, okay, there we go. I've got to put this to bed. And then, everyone's like, oh, well, what have you got next? You're going to get AIDS? It's like, oh, fuck off.
Well, that could be easily arranged.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A little dose of bum AIDS, I'll get you another hour of material.
Well, or you can develop a heroin addiction.
Now, I missed that. What's supposed to say? Glenn told me you're here. Hello, darling. Don't forget to tell me about the Buster Keaton mask behind you. I found it in Madrid. I found that it's a wooden mask of Buster Keaton. And I found it in Madrid. And that's original touring poster of the Marx Brothers.
Wow.
And that's John Belushi, and that is Kramer.
The many beautiful garments behind the scene. Yeah. Were you annoyed that I used the word nerd? I kind of feel it.
No, not at all.
No.
Do you know what? No, not at all. I think it's a really wonderful word, the nerd word. No, I'm not going to, shy away from it. I'm glad that, I don't know if it's possible to be a comedy nerd, but if I am, then fuck it. That's great.
Did the Star Wars stuff come before or after becoming the cancer comedian?
Again, the Star Wars stuff, I was always a collector of shit like that. And, a Star Wars fan. And again, it was that moment of when I did the Star Wars show at the Comedy Store. We were all asked to do a benefit, and it was like, no, I've got 10 minutes here. I'm 15 minutes on the things, and again, go to YouTube to see what we're talking about. And again, I'm probably but I've got to say, from the clowning from the street, that it was like, no, I've never said any of these jokes before. Never said. I've no idea if this 15 minutes of material is going to work. But it is that sort of like, fuck it, I'm just going to go out and do it. That I find so many people aren't ready to embrace. So, I'll do a new material night. Oh, yeah, do a new material night, because then you say you're in the surroundings and the audience will laugh if it doesn't go right. And, you get that supportive laugh from comics at the back going, he's dying on his arse. She's sucking. You get that. But, as Posty will tell you, it's all those years of let's just blag it. Let's just do it. And that was one of those ones. And the fact that, who turned up? I'm trying to think of his name. R2D2.
The guy who played R2D2. Oh Christ! Oh.
Yeah. I've forgotten his name. Jesus
so
Christ.
People who don't know, R2D2 was a little guy in a box who basically, I assume, walked underneath this bloody box.
Yeah. Oh, for God's sake! I've got back in the. You say you're a comedy nerd. You say you're a Star Wars.
There you go.
Anthony Daniels and. Yeah,
you had a good time in your life as well. You're allowed to forget things sometimes.
Yeah.
So his name was Anthony Daniels.
No, Anthony Daniels is C-3PO. He was in a double act called Nuts and Bolts. He's in the Time Bandits. I can't think of his name. Oh, I know so many.
But he was there at the gig.
But anyway, it was at the gig, and I just said, "Any chance you can come on and do a joke for me?" And just to say, you've got to be careful when you go online and you buy, any sort of memorabilia. I bought this R2D2 and look what I got. And he walked on and the place just went up.
You've got the actual genuine actor. And I assume they're all nerds, so they know who he is. They're not just like, why have you got a little person on stage?
Yes. That's not right. You can't just do that. They knew immediately. It was.
So just to draw back, okay? Because the placement, just because of the way I've done it, is my fault. I was interested in the Star Wars thing I saw, but you were a cancer comedian, and you said you had to work your way out of that, and I'm interested in that journey.
It was. Well, I think that moment of doing the big concert was like, boom, that's it. That's it. I'm drawing a line under it. No more. I can't do any more benefits. I did a tour. I toured the show. And you just have to go drop the material. Just stop it. Just find new stuff. And
I assume people are still asking you at that point, and you're actively refusing at this point.
Yeah. I think at that point, myself and Brigstock have started doing the late edition on BBC 4, which also then which was the weirdest thing possible is, you usually you do a live show, you get a radio show, you get the TV show. We got a TV show, did some other sort of like media work with it, and then we end up doing a live show. Which was
so how did you get a TV show? Just
a guy called Bill Dare, who produced the Now show and a few other things on radios, was looking for a vehicle for Brigstock to sit behind a desk. They were looking for the new Jon Stewart, the new Daily Show, and again I got brought in as just a person to write. And the next thing,
they contacted you. They contacted you and said, "Will you work on this project?"
Well, I've known Marcus for quite a few years, since the late 90s. So yeah, I think it was about 2005 that we started it. And we got the TV show was going to go live in Edinburgh, and we thought, well, to create material, we'll do a live show during the day of us doing the papers, which is what basically was the show, and try and create paper stuff from that. And the live show became quite a successful thing. We still do it at quite a few festivals. Still do like Hay on Way and.
So what was the context with it when you were writing it and building it? What did you try and build?
It's basically myself, him, and usually two guests, and we sit and we look at the newspapers. We find the ridiculous, the embarrassing journalism, stupid stories, and he will tack the ugly that is created by journalistic press. And it was.
And did you develop a dynamic between you two? Did you fill a role and he filled a role? And...
Yeah. He is an incredibly middle class posh boy. I'm a working class kid from South London. It was a perfect sort of moment.
Chalk and cheese.
The things that exactly. The stuff that we created over the years. I started taking the piss, going, I went over to his house. I couldn't believe it, but there's a gift shop. We would start that and things like that. And I run through the maze being chased by peacocks. What's that about? And I would play up to it. And and he would say, "Have you got a bucket of whelks with you?" And we really enjoyed that.
Did you feel like you'd escaped the cancer comic? Did you feel like at that point I've broken free from this?
Yeah. And certainly the little bits that I did within the TV show. Again, if you go, Vince, did you see any of the Vincent Investigates? Some of the
I didn't manage to catch that stuff.
Yeah, some of the silly little things of me going and getting in the way of places and finding new stories, and so that kind of worked as well with him sort of like sitting in the studio and then cutting to me, at the Bunfords. I remember the Bucks of Fire, the huge massive fire at Hemel Hempstead, and me standing there again taking the piss out of all the journalists that are waiting for someone to die, and I'm standing there. I've got marshmallows on the end of a stick.
And so is it something of a man on the inside mocking what it is? You're there with the journalists, but it's common man on the ground.
Yeah. It's sort of like trying to, there's the news story, but there's me sort of, kind of going, look, it's a not story. There's not a story here. There was a big fire. Nobody's died. Why are you all here? What are you looking for? Where, let's find the plus from it. The Hemel Hempstead High Street cleared. Now's the time to do your Christmas shopping. It was
boom for the charcoal industry
like that. Yeah, exactly. Get it now while you can. So that was fun. That was something different. And he and I still do projects together.
And so did you? So when you stopped the TV show, did you look for more TV work? Were you actively trying to sustain this presence, or?
I gave up. I had the moment I said I can't do this anymore. I was one of the performers from the late edition was Steve First, and he does this wonderful character called Lenny Beige. I don't know if you've come across Lenny Beige.
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, beautiful, very funny. It's this sort of 70s lounge singer that's a bit crazy and a bit mad. He's wonderful. And ITV were looking for something for Lenny Beige. And they asked me to get together with Steve to work on something. And we had a couple of ideas. I wanted to do a thing where he did maybe like a variety show that was a bit like a rave that moved from venue to venue. And they liked that, but it needed something else. So I have a meeting with Steve, and we're in the Groucho Club. And in walks Robbie Williams. And Robbie Williams and Steve used to do this thing called the Regency Rooms. And Robbie Williams used to turn up and sing because he loved it so much. And I say to Robbie Williams, what are you up to at the moment? He says, got no plans at all. And I sit there and I pitch an idea to Robbie Williams. I say, how about this? You and Lenny, but you go see your dad about doing a variety show. Your dad gets you in touch with Lenny Beige. The two of you each week do a variety show where you get another guest on. But during that time, you do a duet, a sketch together. We create a new variety show with Robbie Williams and Lenny Beige. Robbie Williams goes, love that. Great idea. So we go back to ITV and they go, oh, wow, Robbie Williams. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. And I think this is a done deal. They then go, the only thing is Jimmy Carr's contract's about to run out at Channel 4. What about Jimmy Carr? And I'm like, what, Jimmy Carr instead of Lenny Beige? I thought you wanted to... No. Jimmy Carr instead of Robbie Williams.
Oh, because they're complete, comparable fucking...
Exactly. And I'm going, but no, hold on. Robbie Williams brings his own audience. Robbie Williams is a full-round entertainer, a singer. Jimmy Carr's got his one string to his bow. And then they're like, well, what about Rob Brydon? Rob Brydon's a good singer. At the end of this meeting, the person they was considering was Claudia Winkleman.
And you talk a lot about the entertainment industry, TV industry being kind of, is it that the producers wanted to put their thing on it and it had to be that they were involved, or why would they want to make good?
She was suddenly the zeitgeist, the thing that everybody, she just got film 80 and, she was something else and Claudia, and you just sit there and go, Robbie Williams is a fantastic entertainer. And you want Claudia Winkle, and I was just dumbfounded, absolutely dumbfounded that you would start with such a high moment and finish at that I kind of went, I can't do this anymore. I really can't do this anymore. I can't sit in these rooms and have these conversations with people that are 3 years out of university that don't have the chops, haven't done the legwork, and are just going for what they think everybody wants. And I just sort of went, nah, I'm done. I'm really done. I've not put my pen to paper for any TV shows for, I can't remember now. It must be.
And that's
about 6 to 8 years.
And
that meeting was the one. Yeah,
that's because of producers.
Yeah.
Is there no? Have you never been tempted to kind of take the internet thing and try and do independent production and get away from the producers, or were you so burnt out that it's just?
Yeah. I mean, I've not seen anything for a while that has enthralled me to on television to do anything. I mean, the next bright thing, I sit there and go, everyone going mad about Phoebe Waller-Bridge and the show that she created. I watched it and went, yeah, I've seen it before. What's this? There's nothing here. I tell you what, I do. I teach as well now, which I thoroughly enjoy. Okay. I teach stand-up for university. St Mary's University. I do that for 4 months of the year, part-time.
And did you take that directly after?
No, I tell a lie. I probably did, actually. It was about 2014, 15. I get a real buzz out of that, of watching people who want to be actors, who the idea of them doing their own lines and creating something is fantastic to putting them through exercises, teaching them the process, and then watching them on that first night of going, oh God, I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm doing this. And they're only doing 3 minutes of material. And then, it's 20 of them. They go out there and they do it and they come off. And the buzz, you can see them going, I want to do that again. I want to do that again. I want to do, and I've had about 4 or 5 of them who've gone on to, and they're doing stand-up, which is great. And that gives me a buzz. That gives me a big buzz.
Of course. No, completely. And do you feel like, redundant question, I know it is, but you feel like your experiences give you something to share with these people that other people may not have had?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, I've taken from here. Yeah. I also taught at the City Lit. Yes, 30 years ago. I taught clowning at the City Lit. I forgot all about that. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think putting all those different things together now, putting clowning and street performing and improv and stand-up and having all those things that I can do and making actors or, people that are about to step into the big entertainment world pushing them through that for just before they do that. It is great fun. And one of the things we did for 4 years was put on a red nose and go for a walk.
You relived what you did when you were young.
Yeah.
Yeah, how beautiful that you're passing on what was passed on.
Just watching them, watching actors, and seeing them. Some of them are trembling, performers just going, I can't do this, I'm going to react. Don't react, just be neutral, find the neutral
I suppose there's some comfort in being the focus. I definitely know that from performers.
Yeah.
There's definitely comfort in being the focus. And to relinquish that and still perform.
For them, they are the only performing they're going to do is being directed to doing other people's lines. Here's the script, you go out there and perform that. That's their performing. Suddenly doing something like this, they're like, this is so out my comfort zone. And and it's great. It's really entertaining for me to sort of do that now. I really enjoy it.
And so a question I ask a lot of people, my own personal bugbear, really, I feel like there's less variety on the street now than there was in the era where you were working on the street. Would you agree with that statement?
I see the amplified acts. I kind of, I never in my entire life did I ever put a mic on, which is strange. I'm gonna blow my own trumpet here again. When the Covent Garden Market put in the decibel readings because the musicians were getting too loud, I was on the cobbles and I started performing, and the security guards came running down, and apparently I had hit 137 decibels with my own voice, no microphone, just going, just. And
do you take that from one, having a diaphragm, but is it also the acting training? Is it the fact that you were schooled and taught how to project and produce sound?
Yes, there was that. There was that sort of like I could. I can remember John Lee, who was a musician, who was inside moaning about the fact of when I start my show, you are drowning out my music.
Wow.
And I'm going, but I'm just shouting. It's just me. Was known for the boy with the, my God, Chris Whittle. Bless. I also attended your clowning classes. Oh, thank you, Chris. I remember you being there.
Oh.
So yes.
So you do. Yeah, it sounds like you're saying that the microphones might have been contributor to this, to my assertion.
I think, yeah. I kind of, I miss the beauty of that. Let's just start and let's see what happens and move a few things, and we were talking about Pepe earlier and just the his unique style of just following and creating something out of nothing. Was a magical thing, and now I sort of like if I'm passing through and I can hear clearly, I have here in my bag the death-defying clubs of death, and you just go, no, you haven't.
And was that not around when you were working there?
God, no. I mean, the sort of nutterage that we had. I know Terry Sinclair was talking about a lot of those early acts of, the people that he missed out that I just love. Paul Goodwin was a mime from Aberystwyth, which was just wonderful. Some of the really weird Joe Jackson Jr., the clown on the bike. Jim Jackson turned up once and was spent a whole season. Greystoke, which was Fluke, the magician Fluke, her first show was her and another guy was this guy, and had been monkeys in the Greystoke film and had learned to move in this way, and they just did it. They just sort of like, and they were clothed. They weren't dressed as monkeys, but their whole sort of like 20 minutes was just them being monkeys, and people were just like, wow, what's that? That's just fantastic to watch. Dominic as the box man was just crazy. You know, there's a trunk with legs on, and he put swords in the trunk, and you just, you know, it was just amazing to watch. All this sort of,
and is this
like, that was the thing.
Is it something of the time? Is there 1,000 external factors that led to these interesting artists being there now and not there at this point? Where, you know, now we've got 100 unicycles and 3 straitjackets, and everyone's got, you know.
But
I think the reason people don't stay there anymore is because it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, that acceptance of we can do this, and you know, that's the show. We were kind of like, always, we have to find something different.
Was there
an
established? So, one of my conceits is the reason we have kind of hack now predominantly is because as people learn, there's this real established way of doing things, you know. And if you don't do that, you're kind of, you're either an idiot or you're daring.
Right. Yeah.
Did you have that then?
I suppose. Yeah. No, it was, well, the thing that now is if you do this, if you make your bottling speech before you do your big ending, you're going to make this amount of money. It's so about driving towards that moment, that pinnacle moment, the bathos of collecting, that, I never, the moment at the end of the show was the moment I went, oh, by the way, I do this for, and then there was a few gags there. I had a machine that, I had the old Visa machine. I think it was my heaviest prop for that one joke. And I'm the only performer who takes Access, Barclay cards, and would get that out. But that was the thing, was it was, the money was a plus. Now it's sort of, right, how do I gear this? How do I work this? What is the big skill? What is...
Don't read it all. Peter posted a huge post. Don't try and read it.
What's he saying?
It's that whole thing now that I kind of feel you've missed the fun of it. You're so busy kind of like going, I want to make that £300 hat. That, for an £80 hat, they'll have a much better time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite sad of it because I hear the stories of back in the day, and I'm sure some of it is this beautiful tea-coloured nostalgia. The shit bits have been erased, but it seems to be like this incredible creative environment. And I look now and I see that we've become like pop music. We all do 3-minute songs, kind of thing.
Yeah. I totally see that. That this bit followed by this bit, that bit goes there, boom, we're finished. It is very much like read it. God, he's such a tart. I ran into Danger Cameraman oh God, hearing him, we talked about the heffalumps in Ural. That reminds me of something. Last year I was staying with Art Kramer into Schelling, and he gave me the footage of you breaking your knee in the Paradiso in Amsterdam. Horrible to watch. John asking for a doctor and the whole room laughing, and Alex and me dragging you to the back of the stage while you're screaming. There we are. Yeah, so Posty has that footage. Wow. Yeah. That was going back on that. Yes, it's that moment, that pure adrenaline and of fun and frolics, and there were so many other sort of places you could perform. I don't know. I'd have to look for something. I'm too old too unfit to be able to. I mean, I'd look at Lynham, Christopis. Lynham could still do it. Lynham probably, he's still got.
I watched him about 5 years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, and it was an epiphany to see someone not wink at their audience. you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he was one of those ones that you just go, oh wow. I can remember getting to Hong Kong for the festival there, and driving to the venue, and just as we turn the corner, there's we're on a dual carriageway, and Lynham is in the middle of the carriageway on a box and he's just conducting in the middle of the road, and just watching these Chinese people as they're driving past, like, just what the, there's no money to be made there. It's not about the money. It's about the moment.
Yeah. What a beautiful thing to say. And is there anything else you'd like to say? We've been talking, and every time I say this to people, they're shocked. 2.5 hours at this point.
God, Jesus, I've got to watch Match of the Day.
Well, if you'd like to talk some more, you're more than welcome. I've had such a pleasure chatting with you that I'm more than happy to.
We can save it for another time.
Okay, so if you have to take this moment, is there anything you'd like to finish off with?
This is great. I really enjoyed this. I'm glad you're doing this. Well done. People that are, if there are old performers, I mean, I certainly find myself watching these. So, keep doing it and finding all those. Talk to Posty, talk to, all those old wonderful performers. Mr. Johns. But yeah, maybe we'll do a Heffalumps night. Get me, Alex, Peter, all of us together.
Well, we can definitely reach out for that. Definitely. Andre, such a pleasure, like genuine pleasure. Please don't
really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Quickly say goodbye after we go offline. For now, everyone else has been watching. Everyone, thank you. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
See you later, everyone.
Goodbye. Yeah, pay the man. Goodbye. I have no idea this is going to end. Goodbye.